It's just a little crazy that 3 championship holders all crashed during a single race weekend. This is not a tech channel. We just tell you the gist of things. The retirement rumors that can't stop, won't stop. He's out on track and his car is not moving. And the race is still going on. A headline comes out saying, George Russell suspended. But the race goes on. Hello F1 fans, welcome to another F1 chat with your host, Ogin. Before we get started, let me just throw out this disclaimer. I am new to F1. I've been watching since last year of October in 2025. This is just a space where I share my feelings and thoughts about F1 and talk about everything that's happening according to my perspective and views. Down below, you'll find links to different articles that expound on the things that I'm talking about in this video. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and share your thoughts with me down in the comments below. All right, time to talk about the track. So let's cover this track. This time around, I was ready with track information because my friend Melissa got me this book for my birthday. Remember I said it was my birthday last video. Anyways, I got this book now. And it's about Formula 1 racing. Shout out to Melissa. So this track name is in French and I did not look up the pronunciation before. Okay, I looked it up and it's Gilles Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve. Nailed it. Anywho, the track is named after him. He is a Canada driver who competed in Formula 1 racing during the years of 1977 to 1982. And his son, Jacques, won the 1997 championship for Canada. Unfortunately, the end of Gilles' F1 career ended in tragedy. In 1982, he collided with the back of another car, which launched him out of the car and ended with him sustaining fatal injuries. That evening, he passed away. His death caused the FIA to review the safety standards yet again. They ensured that the seats were now mounted onto the cockpits in multiple different ways and change the positions of the chairs so that way drivers' feet and legs are protected. At this track, there is a wall called the Wall of Champions. It got that name because in 1999, 3 different World Championship drivers all crashed into that wall in a single race weekend. Those drivers were Damien Hill, Michael Schumacher, and Jacques Villeneuve. And in 2005, Jenson Button made his mark on that wall. And in 2011, Sebastian Vettel joined the fray. There were no fatal injuries. All drivers walked away just fine. However, it's just a little crazy that 3 championship holders all crashed during a single race weekend. So you gotta be asking the question, why? How do these drivers who were dubbed the best of the best throughout an F1 season crashing into this wall? Well, it's because that wall sits at the exit of a corner, a tight corner, a tight high-speed curved corner. And the way to get the most out of that corner, so like let's say the most speed, is if you brake late. And so some people just meet the wall instead of successfully turning. Because if you brake too late, you hit the wall. Now on to tech time. Okay, the flashing lights are still being developed. We talked about that last race. Red Bull did an upgrade package to their last package, so they upgraded their upgrade. Racing Bulls upgraded the body of their car. Haas did a 5-piece package upgrade. And if you want to know any more about these upgrades, the link is in the description because this is not a tech channel. We just tell you the gist of things. Or me. It's just me. It's no one else is here. All right, on to... Hey, so I forgot to get my media hat because we are continuing the segment we started last video. So as you guys know, I don't cover everything that happened on Media Day, but whatever snippets I catch during the race weekend, I always share with you guys. This is the Canada Media Day. And so now that my media hat is on, I can talk to you about the retirement rumors that can't stop, won't stop. Everybody in F1 is retiring this season. Like, nobody knows why. First, it's Lewis Hamilton retiring, Max Verstappen retiring, Esteban Ocon getting kicked out of his seat, Bottas retiring. Nobody knows what is true. However, some of these claims were addressed during the Canada Media Day. First off, we'll talk about Bottas. People are saying because his performance has been less than stellar, that Cadillac is thinking about replacing him with somebody else. They have a reserve driver who people are speculating that they're going to switch him out with. However, Bottas squashed these rumors during this race weekend, saying that is complete BS, that there's always rumors circling around like this, and this is nothing new. Like, he's been in F1 too long to be falling for this or getting upset about these kind of rumors. He's like, it just comes with the job, like an occupational hazard. He even went so far as to call it clickbait, which, I mean, is he lying though? No. Now let's move on to the next retirement rumor about Lewis Hamilton. Now, last season, a lot of people were saying that his move to Ferrari was disastrous and that he should quit now because his stats are going in the trash can. It was me. I was saying that about his stats. I am like, if he goes out now, he'll go out on top goated. But if he stays, then he is going to have really bad stats that he's going to have to make up for. Those stats, like, just stay on your record. You can't get rid of those. But he was determined. A lot of drivers had encouraged him throughout the season, saying that, you know, it's really hard when someone starts with a new team, so we should really have grace for him, and that it wouldn't be fair to him if he quit now without even trying. Different people were saying he should stick it out and see how well he does. The first year is just the first year, and then if he sticks it out, who knows what he can accomplish. But back to the rumors. So the rumor is that Lewis Hamilton was going to retire, and they were going to bring in Oliver Behrman to replace Lewis Hamilton. Oliver Behrman drives for Haas right now, and the seat change would be kind of seamless because Behrman has driven for Ferrari before. He was one of their reserve drivers. So he has said he has a dream of driving for Ferrari again, and people are like, no, because Ferrari kills dreams. However, we'll see how they do. They did not do so hot last year, and so hopefully this year they do better. The way Lewis squashed these rumors about him retiring is during one of the media day. This man really said, I have a 5-year plan. It wouldn't cause me to gasp if he wasn't 41. Like, if he was saying this and he was 25, okay. But usually, after a certain age, because of the speed of the cars, certain drivers will retire. And so, technically, in Formula One racing, Lewis is past retirement age. But if he still wants to drive, it's totally fine. No one's going to force him out of his seat. And he's also not the oldest driver on the grid. That goes to Alonso Fernando. And people keep making fun of how old he is. Even Lewis Hamilton is all like, when are you going to retire? Are you good? He's made fun of Alonso for being old before. And the age difference is only 3 years. Lewis is 41 and Fernando Alonso is 44. At least at the time of this video. So the fact that Lewis Hamilton has been making fun of Fernando Alonso for years for being old, and now he's gonna pull out, I have a 5-year plan with Ferrari. Babe. Good thing for him for having a 5-year plan with Ferrari. Good thing that he knows what he's doing. I don't know if it's a 5-year from when he started with Ferrari or 5 years when he said it, because he's already finished a whole year with Ferrari. So we'll see how that goes. Oh yeah, and I didn't say this, but if Lewis had retired and Behrman went to Ferrari, the driver who would take Behrman's seat would be Yuki Tsunoda. He's driven for Red Bull and Racing Bulls before, but he's a pretty unimpressive driver, so I don't know how that would work. We'll see how things go. Oh, and to wrap up the segment for Lewis also said for this race, perhaps for the rest of the season, he said that he's no longer going to be doing racing on a simulator racing. And the reason for that being is because he says that when he does the sim racing and he gets out on track, he's adjusting his whole setup again. So he feels like it's a waste of time to do sim racing if he's just gonna end up changing his whole setup once he's actually out on track. So he usually does sim racing once a week, but now he's like, done. I'm done with that. I'm just gonna look at the data and then just go out on track and do what I do. That was the vibe he was giving off. He's like, nah, I'm done with sim racing. I'm done with having to unlearn everything I learned. I'm just gonna go do what I do on track. It's fine. I've been doing this for, how long has he been doing this? Okay, he won his first title in 2008. 2008. That's almost 20 years ago. So he's more than a decade into this. So he's like, I know what I'm doing, guys. I know what I'm doing. So we'll see how that goes. So Stroll from Aston Martin said that they fixed the vibration problem, so the car should be driving just fine now. And another upgrade will be coming in Spa, so that's very exciting. And that ends the media corner. All right, on to FP1. FP1. So in FP1, a couple things happened. The people who did not finish FP1 was Colapinto, because of a throttle issue, Lawson because he lost power steering, and Alex Albon because he crashed and had car damage and couldn't complete the session. So these 3 guys are out. And the top 5 for FP1 were Antonelli, Russell, Hamilton, Leclerc, and Verstappen. Now, the reason why I was excited for FP1 was because my favorite race reporter was back! Oh my gosh, so because I started watching F1 at the end of last season, there was so much information I didn't know. The person who graced me with all of her knowledge and information was Laura Winters. The way she talks, the way she carries herself, she's very elegant, very polished, very on it. She is watching FP1 just like us. So she's writing down all the questions. And so after FP1 ends, she asks all the questions that we want to know. And so she was gone because she had a baby. And I knew she was on maternity leave when I didn't see her back during the start of the season. I was like, oh, there are new people here. This is fine. I'm gonna be okay. And then I was like, what if she never comes back? I just felt devastated because she was there with just explaining things in layman's terms so that way we know what's going on. She's asking experts questions so that way we can also glean from their knowledge and expertise and understand what's coming up. Sometimes with maternity leave, people don't come back. I was spiraling. Maybe I'll never see her again. And then she graced us with her presence. It was so fun. Anywho, that's what was exciting to me about FP1. Everything else is just all right, Laura's back. Now that I'm done gushing about Laura, let's move on to sprint qualifying because you guessed it, guys. It's a sprint weekend. So SQ1 is starting and Alex Albon and Lawson are not going to participate because their cars have not been repaired in time. So they'll just be starting from the back. However, Lawson did an interview during the FP1 session and he said the car felt pretty good. So he seems very confident going into this race weekend. Let's see what he got because last race was not it. So SQ1 starts. Alonso's in the wall. Are we even surprised? Let's just talk about my pet peeve really quick. I just would really like them to start interviewing drivers in their native language. I just feel like they would be able to say so much more if they did. And if there are interviews with drivers in their native language, I would very much like to see it. Because if you watch a Grill the Grid episode, last season, Bortoletto, this poor man, they kept asking him questions in English. And he's like, I know what you're saying, but I don't know the word in English. I only know it in Portuguese. That's what they speak in Brazil, right? Anywho, he's like, I just don't know it in English. And people were like, well, do your best. Try your best. Nobody was like, just say it in your language. We'll give you a point for it. Nobody said that. They're just like, try your best to speak English. And he's all panicking. He's like, okay, I'm gonna try my best. I'm like, can you chill, guys? Just let him speak his language and just dub it in later. Or just give us the subtitles. Why are we torturing people like this? Anywho, Alonso qualified P16. He was out, but he already got his flying lap. And I don't know if it's because he's like, y'all think I'm gonna retire me? When I'm still in my prime? And so he was like, I gotta get it. I gotta prove to everybody. I don't know, he didn't say this, but it just kind of felt like, oh, you're coming out of the woodwork. You're trying to show that you're still here and you still got it. Okay, cool. So we'll see how this goes for him. Carlos Sainz gets into Q3. Oh my gosh, Williams, you got into Q3. Wow. Last race, Carlos was all upset. He was like, we're 3 steps behind. But now he's in Q3 in a Williams. And so let's just remember, before he could not get out of Q1 for the life of him. And now he got out of Q1, Q2, and he's up in Q3. But Haas, even with their 5-piece upgrade package, they still ain't got it. They couldn't find the pace to get out of Q2. And they've been out in Q2 for the past 4 races. So we're hoping they do better next time. It sounds like they're having a very difficult time. All right, now we're in Q3. And Hamilton goes out and that boy is on fire. He's over here sliding all over the track. But the ones who take top 3 are Russell, Antonelli, and Norris. It's another Mercedes front row lockout. And we can say that McLaren might be coming back because last race was atrocious. But this time I'm like, do they got it? Do they got the pace to be consistent? Well, we got to see. During the sprint qualifying interview, they interviewed George Russell. And Russell says, I'm feeling great. I never doubted myself. I'm glad today. In Miami, McLaren and Ferrari got really close, but today we're feeling great. We're making really good progress and I'm glad to be back in P1. It's been a great day. This boy is cheesing. He is like, and guess who's so back? Now let's talk about the sprint. Before the sprint race happened, we gotta find out who's in the pit lane. It's Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll is in the pit lane because he broke parc fermé to change the power unit on his car. Also, Behrman, Bottas, and Gasly all broke the parc fermé rules to change their setup. You can tell that some teams are just making sacrifices during the sprint race. They're like, listen, we're just gonna do upgrades, we're gonna change everything, and we're gonna do the sprint and then see how the car handles it. They could do what they want, and it's not as if they're sacrificing both of their drivers. They're only sacrificing one to see if the setup change is worth it. And it's better to do this during the sprint instead of the qualifying, because I mean, sprint, if you're not in the top 8, then like, just do what you want to make your car faster. So that way, when race day comes, you're ready. All right, 5 lights go out. Boop, 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 boop. And Mercedes finally gets a good launch off the line. And they hold their 1-2 position. Antonelli did a great job covering off Norris. And Russell just took off. That boy launched. And Hamilton is like coming up. He's like, excuse me. And he overtakes Piastri. For what? I don't even know what position anybody is. For P4. Okay, by lap 5, Colapinto is up in the top 10. Hadjar is having engine problems. And Antonelli and Russell are fighting tooth and nail. Them boys are not playing around. They're like, I want to be first. No, I want to be first. No, I want to be first. No, I want to be first. And they are overtaking each other like crazy and getting really close to each other, like almost making contact multiple times. In fact, they do make contact where Kimi goes and jumps next to Russell, but Russell ends up squeezing him out and Kimi ends up going off the track. By lap 6, Antonelli lunges again, but he ends up making a mistake and going way off the track, cutting through the grass. And Norris, who has been chilling in P3, uses that chance to overtake Antonelli for P2. And in the back, Hadjar is down to P22, so he definitely has a problem with his engine. By lap 7, you find out that Antonelli was pissed. He is yelling on the radio about how Russell did an unfair takeover, that he squeezed him. Not when he went on the grass, but the first time during lap 5 where he lunged and Russell squeezed him off track, according to him. But Russell did not get a penalty, so the racing stewards must have said it was just a racing incident. Racing incident just means that you don't get a penalty for whatever happened, because that's just something that would happen during racing. They're just like, well, I mean, we can't penalize you guys for racing. That's crazy. Anyways, Kimi's getting loud on the radio, and his racing engineer, who is cool as a cucumber, he's like, let's just stay focused. Let's focus on Norris in front of you. You need to just overtake him. Antonelli shouts back, I don't care! I don't care! He pushed me off! And it gets to the point where even Toto Wolff, the team principal for Ferrari, who's been with Ferrari for, like, I don't know, it feels like 20 years, who was there when Lewis Hamilton was having his dominant era in Ferrari. I'm sorry, in Mercedes. Did I say Ferrari? This is all from Mercedes. This Toto Wolff gets on the radio, because team principals rarely get on the radio. So when a driver is talking on the radio, he's usually talking to his personal race engineer, who is monitoring his car and like letting him know what's going on the track. So if you get your team principal on the radio and he's not congratulating you, is your job in jeopardy? I don't know. Even Lewis Hamilton's a little scared of Toto Wolff. So I'm just saying, this is why Toto Wolff coming on the radio is a big deal. So he comes on the radio, tells Kimi to like chill out. He's like, hey, you've complained enough. We've already told you to stop complaining on the radio. Get off the radio and just race. And we don't hear from Kimi after that. Norris is catching up to Russell for P1, and Hamilton is coming for Antonelli in P3. And if you look in the back, Perez is up in P12 in a Cadillac. Oh my God, Perez. He's doing really well. And the commentators, of course, were still talking about like how Bottas is so good, that he's gotten so many pole position. And Bottas is down in P21. Like, he's the last car because Hadjar retired. By lap 15, Antonelli locks in and starts chasing Norris for P2. Piastri is coming for Hamilton because he's like, I can't believe You just took me over in lap 1 and you think I'm just gonna lay down and take it? And Leclerc is right behind Piastri in P6. He's like, hey, I'm also here. And Hülkenberg is under investigation for leaving the track and getting track advantage on Liam Lawson. So we'll see how that turns out. By lap 20, the top 3 are Russell, Norris, and Antonelli. And with 3 laps left, Alonso retires. By lap 22, Antonelli attacks Norris, but Norris is a brick wall. He's like, you're not getting through here. I took this from you fair and square. And Piastri managed to get around Lewis Hamilton for P4. So McLaren is looking good this race. And then by lap 23, Leclerc gets in front of Hamilton for P5. I mean, I thought the simulator was holding you back, Lewis. I don't know if Lewis was having some kind of issue with charging his battery or what. But that boy fell down to P6. And the top 3 are, I think I have a drum roll soundtrack. Russell, Norris, and Antonelli. All right, and now it's time for the post-race interviews. Antonelli gets interviewed. That boy is still steaming about the move Russell made. He does realize his own mistake that he made later on, and he's like, you know what? It is what it is. He didn't make that face. That was me. That was my interpretation. He was very like, it is what it is. But like, I don't know. I don't know what kind of energy that was. Russell gets interviewed, and he says, it was a cool race, and it was very difficult. And it was a good battle with Kimi, and I'm glad we both got podium. And I'm just like, this boy, he knows just what to say. Norris says this for his interview. I watched the battle, and I picked up the pieces. And I'm guessing he meant that he was just watching them fight each other and looking for an opportunity to overtake whenever he had. And I've said this before, usually when 2 cars are battling in front of you, you kind of wait until like they tire each other out, and then you swoop in and overtake whoever's like limping behind. Common tactic. Anyways, Russell did have this to say to like close out the driver interviews. And this is paraphrased, by the way. He said, Miami sucked, but I got my groove back. And this isn't the first time this race weekend he mentioned Miami. That boy hates the Miami track with a passion. This is like the 3rd time he's all like, yeah, Miami was not good, but I'm so back. Post-sprint results, Sainz and Perez finished P10 and P11. They did so well. Such a big improvement for their teams. Kimi was so mad, and Kimi was told that the team would talk about his incident with Russell during the team debrief after the race. And Hülkenberg and Perez both got a 10-second penalty. For incidents involving Lawson, Hülkenberg got his penalty for getting outside of track limits and gaining track advantage on Lawson, and Perez got a 10-second penalty for squeezing Lawson into the grass. That boy was like, the car feels so good, and he's over here suffering. This race was just not his race. He finished P11. Now let's go on to qualifying for the Grand Prix. So for Q1, Russell says that his car feels weird, and Perez is under investigation again. Let's hope this boy stop racking up investigation this race weekend, because it's not a good look. Thankfully, he didn't get a penalty, but he needs to be careful from now on. Sainz makes it into Q2, and for the first time this season, Pierre Gasly is out in Q1. I mean, I don't want to say I told you so, but let's hope Alpine keeps upgrading their cars and keeps putting in the work so that way their drivers can get the most out of it, because Gasly and Colapinto have been consistently getting points. So keep their car decent, and they should be scoring within the top 10 all the time. Let's see how this race weekend goes. Maybe he'll be able to climb his way back into the top 10. By Q3, Leclerc is just saying, give me clean air. Clean air is all that matters. And so it sounds like the track is kind of dusty, because if the track is dusty and kicking up a bunch of dirt, it's hard for drivers to not only like see clearly, but like to get the most speed out of their car. By Q3, Verstappen is having car issues. Antonelli gets provisional pole, but out of nowhere, Russell comes from the back and secures pole position for race day. So the top 3 are Russell, Antonelli, and Norris. Again. Apparently again. Whatever they're doing, they need to keep doing, because it is getting them the top 3 position each time. Now let's see if it gets them podium. So during the interview, they interviewed George Russell, and he says, it's the most exhilarating when it comes out of nowhere. which means that he wasn't expecting to get pole position. He was just expecting to put in a really good lap time. So the fact that he got pole position surpasses expectations, and he is just all smiles again. I don't know, maybe Miami really did a number on him, because he's like, I can't stop smiling because this track loves me so much, and I also love this track as well. So we're happy to see it. This is his 9th pole position in his 7-year career, because he's been racing since 2019. All right, post qualifying, the top 3 takes a picture. And so the way a sprint weekend works is that you have the sprint and then you have the qualifying for the Grand Prix. So this is right after the sprint race. So Kimi is still sitting on all the feelings he was sitting on during the sprint weekend. And when they go to take a picture, Kimi's whole body language is like, I do not want to be near this man. I mean, I guess it's understandable. He is still new to F1 racing. He is still new to like having this much media coverage, because at least in my opinion, for F2, 3, and 4, you don't have as much coverage as you would during an F1 race. So I feel like you have a little bit more privacy when you're not in F1. However, it's like when you're F1, you have all these cameras looking at you all the time, different angles, different companies getting pictures of you, video recording you, like whenever you're out on the paddock or during your time out on track. And so it was just really awkward to watch. I was like, ooh. And you have to wonder, with the way Kimi is right now, if this is going to be another Brocedes. Basically, Lewis Hamilton had a friend, Nico Rosberg. They came up together and they made it to F1, and they were teammates for Mercedes. However, one year, Rosberg was like, you know what? I'd love to win a championship. I think this year's going to be my year. And up to that point, Lewis had been winning the championships for Mercedes. And so when Nico Rosberg was like, I'm gonna race you full on, we're gonna be teammates, but I also want that championship, you know what I'm saying? The season ended with Nico Rosberg on the podium the most, and he won the championship. However, their friendship never recovered. To this day, I think they finally started talking recently, but that was back in 2016. It's been like 20 years, and I think like after like 15-ish years, they started to calm down and just be like, you know what, maybe we can be friends again. I don't know. I don't even know. I just know that they don't hate each other anymore. And so that's what happened last time when Mercedes let their drivers race each other. So we're gonna see if Mercedes is going to do the same thing and let their drivers race each other. I mean, it makes for good media, and at least one of their drivers is gonna end up winning the championship. However, let's hope it's not as toxic as it was. All right, now let's go into race day. So just to cover some things, this is a one-stop track, but it's also drizzling. Do you remember what I told you about rain in the last video? I don't know how we're gonna feel, because I didn't talk to you about 2025 when it rained in Australia. That was a whole thing where Lewis was pissed because he was leading the race, and because they didn't tell him when it was gonna rain, that boy lost that race. Oscar and McLaren, who were in the lead, also spun out during that race. More than 3 drivers crashed because of the rain, rookie drivers and veteran drivers. So I'm just like, I've seen Australia, and it was like not a good time. So let's see what Canada is gonna do during the rain. It is a 20 to 80% chance of a safety car coming up. The rain probably doubles those odds because people just be spinning. And so we're gonna see if drivers are gonna start on the right tires. Now, when we look at the starting grid, we see that McLaren is the only one on intermediate tires, and most of the other drivers have soft tires. And so we're like, is everything gonna be good? Now, intermediate tires, if you don't know, is that you can race in intermediate tires. It's for light rain. Like if the track is like lightly wet, then intermediate tires are good. If the track is damp, then you switch to wet tires. Now, the crossover is going to be important for the drivers who are not on wet tires at all or intermediate tires. And a crossover is basically the time where you choose to switch from regular tires to like intermediate or wet tires, or vice versa. Because if you get that crossover wrong, and like you change into it too soon, then it's gonna affect your race where you're not going as fast, because for intermediate tires, it's not the same as hard, soft, or medium tires because it's made for the wet. So if the track is dry, you're not gonna get the most out of your tires. Also, breaking news. Should I put on my media cap? Breaking news. Toto said that he's going to let his drivers drive. That he's going to let them race. We'll see if this is a repeat of 2016. We're hoping it's not, but we don't know. And the reason why it's so significant that he said this is because last year, during McLaren's dominant era, Oscar Piastri was not allowed to race Lando Norris. And Zach Brown has said, no, like, we respect both our drivers. Like, no, it's totally fine. They're able to, like, do their own race. We're playing the team game. We want both of our drivers to have fun. But that's a lie. You can't lie to my face like that, because I heard the radio where basically in Australia, Oscar was saying, hey, I'm faster than Norris. I know we're 1-2 and he's right in front of me. However, I have the faster pace. Can you tell him to go faster? Or can I overtake him and just like create a gap between us and everybody else, or like at least me and everybody else, so that way we can make sure that one of us is up on the top step. And they said nothing. It was crickets. They're like, I don't know. Meanwhile, on Lando's radio, they were like, pick up the pace. Oscar is coming for you. You gotta go faster. And Norris is like, I'm giving it all I have. That is what we heard. And Zach Brown had the audacity to be like, no, like, it was totally fine. We let our driver drive however they want to. It got to the point, even at the end of the year last year, during the last race, everybody was like, so like, are you gonna let your drivers drive? They were asking the drivers, they're like, so like, are you guys gonna race each other for real now? And it was to the point where people were questioning Oscar Piastri, who's cool as a cucumber. They were like, so like, if you have the opportunity to overtake Norris, are you gonna? Or are you gonna follow team orders? Because the team orders keep saying, no, just support him from behind him. It's fine. So that's basically why everyone was like at the edge of their seat. Mercedes, are you gonna let your drivers drive? And Mercedes like, of course, absolutely. That's what we're here for. We're here to see drivers drive. They're gonna race each other, but they're gonna be respectful about it. And they're not gonna crash our cars, because we're gonna have some issues. Because if you look back in 2016, where Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton did have a collision, Toto was pissed. He didn't say he was pissed. He's all like, yeah, we talked to our drivers, it's totally fine. Lewis Hamilton comes out later like, Toto was pissed. So it sounds like as long as they don't crash the car, they're able to race, no problem. And that's fine. I fully support your decision, Toto. We're here for it. Oh, and before the race, Lance Stroll is starting from the pit lane again, which is kind of sad because this is his home race, because he is Canadian and he is starting from the pit lane. However, Oscar Piastri this year did not even get to start in his home race. It just feels like it's that kind of season. Who knows who's going to be able to race in their home race? Sometimes that's just the way that it goes. Oh, that's the sprinklers. Anyhow, so they do the formation lap to warm up the tires. It is drizzling. The racing stewards are looking to see if they want to go ahead and start the race. If it's too much rain, they might not start the race. They might delay it. We're gonna see how it goes. So they're like, okay, let's just do a formation lap and see how we feel about it. Oscar Piastri is like, bro, I'm floating on these tires. And I don't think that's a good thing. That means he doesn't feel connected to the ground, which means he doesn't have grip. And if he doesn't have enough grip, that means he can't get the speed out of the car that he wants. During this formation lap, Lindblad's car dies. R.I.P. Lindblad's car again. So they had to do another formation lap because his car died on track. So they have to recover his car, so they can't start the race. So they do another formation lap. And after that formation lap, they still haven't gotten Lindblad's car all the way back to his garage. It's in the pit lane. So they're like, well, we can't start the race if the pit lane's not available, so we're gonna do another formation lap. In total, they did 3 formation laps. And Piastri is still like, I don't know about these tires, man. But it's too late to change them now, because technically they didn't know they were gonna do 3 formation laps. So they were like, we already started the formation laps. We can't just come into the pits now. You're just gonna have to like see how it goes. Anyways, the 5 lights go out. Boop, 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 boop. And the race starts. Norris comes in. He jumps right in front of the Mercedes and overtakes Antonelli and Russell. And he is now leading the race. Antonelli wasn't playing. He jumps up too and he overtakes Russell for P2. Both of the Mercedes got a good launch, but Norris was just quicker. And then Hamilton comes in again and overtakes Piastri for P4. And Verstappen is like, yo, let me get in on that too. And he starts attacking Piastri as well. And Piastri's like, I can't do this anymore. And he dives into the pit. And he changes his tires for medium tires. For lap 2, Alonso, he got past everybody else. And he's like, I'm chilling in P12 now. By lap 3, Norris, who got such a great launch, is now in the pits because he has to change his tires too. Now Antonelli and Russell are back in the lead with Antonelli in P1 and Russell in P2, but they are duking it out. And Hamilton is just hanging back in P3, watching and waiting. By lap 4, Norris is desperately running back to the front of the pack, and he's currently in P14. His team tells him like, yo, slow down because you just got those tires on and you need to warm them up, and we want them to last for a while. By lap 5, Alonso is up in P10 and Behrman is in P9. Is Haas making a comeback? By lap 7, Russell breaks through and overtakes Kimi. By lap 8, you can see the McLarens are climbing up fast. By lap 9, Verstappen throws himself onto the inside and overtakes Hamilton, and he is now in 3rd place. And Lewis complains about not having enough power. I'm guessing this means that he wants to know where on the track he can charge his battery so that way he can overtake people, or at least like stay in front of people, because you know we're in the hybrid era where you have to charge your batteries so that way you can have enough power to do overtakes or to pull ahead of other drivers, because there's a certain button that you can't use if you don't have enough power. By lap 12, Behrman has a lockup, and Gasly and Norris overtake him for P9 and P10. That boy is now out of the top 10. Norris ain't stopping. He goes on to overtake Gasly for P9. And Russell and Antonelli are still dancing, overtaking each other left and right. By lap 13, the yellow flag comes out, and we see Alex Albon falling behind, and Oscar Piastri is back in the pits. By lap 14, Alex Albon retires the car, and we find out that Piastri had car damage. So we're like, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Basically, Piastri went to go overtake Behrman, but Albon didn't see him going to overtake Behrman at one of the turns, and they both collided with each other. And it ended up in Albon having to retire his car. Meanwhile, Hülkenberg is being investigated again, this time for speeding in the pit lane. By lap 16, Norris is in the pits. It's said it's because he has a car reliability issue. They weren't telling us what's going on, and sometimes that's just how it be. By lap 17, the top 5 are Russell, Antonelli, Verstappen, Hamilton, and Leclerc, because he's there too. And the commentators are saying cutthroat things, biased things. They're saying that Russell needs to win. On his face, that doesn't sound like a bad thing. They're like, oh, he needs to win so that way he can have enough points to like overtake Antonelli in the championship. But then they follow it up with this. They say that this is Russell's track and he needs to break Antonelli's streak. Like, let that boy race. If he's good, then he's gonna win. After we got 3 races in, you guys just started saying whatever you wanted. Anyways, enough of that. By lap 21, Colapinto is 22 seconds behind P7, so he's in P8, which is crazy. That's like a lot. And by lap 22, I mentioned it before, Russell just loves this track, but there's this one corner where he keeps locking up. And if he keeps locking up, Kimi Antonelli is going to overtake him because like that boy's looking for an opportunity. Oh, and Piastri's under investigation for the collision he had with Alex Albon. And he's been under investigation since lap 13. So by lap 24, they decide to give Piastri a 10-second penalty for that collision. By lap 27, Alonso retires his car, which is so sad. He was doing so well. He was up in P12. And the reason they cited is that he was having severe discomfort caused by an issue with his race seat. Now, Stroll said that they fixed the vibration issue, but Alonso is still experiencing discomfort. So we don't know if it's because of vibration or if it's because of something else. But the race goes on. By lap 28, the Ferraris are within 2 seconds of each other with Hamilton in P4 and Leclerc in P5. So let's see if they duke it out, because earlier this season, they couldn't stop fighting. By lap 30, because Russell and Antonelli have been fighting since Norris has been gone. Like, they've just been fighting nonstop for about 20 laps, maybe more. And so by lap 30, all of a sudden, Russell's car suddenly starts to lose speed. And we're like, well, why is he slowing down? What's going on? What's happening? And he slows down to a halt. And he's out on track and his car is not moving. And the race is still going on. And I'm screaming. What do you mean his car car stopped. This is his truck. He's been feeling so good all weekend. He could not stop smiling. And his car just stopped? This man can't catch a break? I've already told you, Mercedes engines suck. I don't know what it is. Mercedes power units have been having all kinds of issues. So why are we surprised that their own drivers are suffering from their effects? We shouldn't be surprised, but I was gagged. He isn't pulled off to the side. He's still slightly on the track. So the yellow flag comes out and racers are slowing down, but still like they're going at a certain speed, still probably around 100 kilometers per hour, because he just stopped out of nowhere. And so everyone's like driving by like, oh my gosh, it's him. And the yellow flag comes out. And so Russell is pissed. And the way a driver has to exit their car, they have to take out their steering wheel. Because the cockpits are built so small, because they're trying to keep the car as light as possible, you have to take out certain things before you can get out of the car. So you have to take out your steering wheel, and you have to unbuckle, and you have to take off your headrest. So Russell takes off his steering wheel. He puts it on the front of the car, and then he takes off his headrest. There's like a big foam piece to where they rest their head. And instead of just like putting it on the side as he gets out, he takes it off and he throws it in front of him. And remember, I told you he didn't pull all the way off the truck. So that thing lands in front of his car on the track. As soon as I saw this, I was like, ooh, he gonna get it. Because the way you're just making other drivers unsafe because your car stopped, that was not a smart move. Like, if you're gonna throw it to the side. Do not throw it in front of you where drivers are still coming around. You don't do that. And so when I saw him do that, I was like, I texted Kristen, because we live text, if that's a thing. We live text during the race. And I was like, he's gonna get a penalty for that. I already knew he was gonna get a penalty for that. It's not a surprise. Anywho, he gets off his car. He's so mad. And he's just like looking at his car, just shaking his head. Like, you can tell he cannot believe this happened to him. And on a track that he says he loves, right after Miami. This boy is probably feeling all the emotions, because picture this, like at the start of the season, you take the pole position for the first race. Not only did you take the pole position for the first race, but you actually won the first race as well. And then all of a sudden, although you're still getting podiums, your teammate who started last year, remember, if you're George Russell, you've been doing this since 2019. Your teammate who started last year is now getting all of the pole positions and all of the P1s and all of the race wins. And sometimes you're just not even ending up on podium. You finally find a track that you like, a track that's like so forgiving to you. You got the sprint win, you got pole position, and you're in the Grand Prix, and you're racing neck and neck with your teammate who's only been there for 2 years. You have 5 years on this boy. So you're like, we can duke it out all day. I'm not even scared. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And your car dies. It is no fault of your own. It's not like you collided with anybody. It's not like you did a driver error. It is your car that failed you during a weekend where you've been cheesing all day long. You've just been like, I mean, this is just what I do, guys. This is just what I do. And now you're just devastated. I can't even put into words what Russell must have felt. Fun fact, Russell has not retired a car since 2023. So I feel like this is like an extra step of devastating, because it's been 3 years since he's ever had to retire from a race. And he's like, I think this year's gonna be my year, guys. I think this track's gonna be my track. The trauma there must have been deep. And then you turn around and you see the safety car has come out, and you look at Antonelli, and that boy is 8 seconds in the lead. He's left everyone behind. He's all like, well, I mean, I guess I'm doing a race of my own now. By lap 31, everybody dives into the pits. They're like, here's our free pit stop. Everyone takes advantage of it. And by lap 34, Hadjar is up to P4 and keeps Leclerc right behind him in P5, and Colapinto pulling up in P6, because remember, I told you Colapinto, he loves that P7, P8 position. And by lap 38, Norris has moved up to P8. So after the pits, everyone's position has changed. Here's what the order looks like after the pit stops after lap 30. By lap 39, Hadjar and Leclerc are dancing for P4. And Isaac is doing his best to stay in front of Leclerc, get more power, and pull ahead of him so they won't have to fight so much. Okay. By lap 40, Leclerc claims the P4 position from Hadjar. And Norris pulls off track again because of a reliability issue with his car. And then he retires his car and he is out of the race. So the top 5 is now Antonelli, Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc, and Hadjar. By lap 41, Piastri is finally in the points behind the Alpines, and Berman is right behind him in P10. In lap 43, we don't know how this happened. They never talked about it again, but we see Perez pulling in to the pits. And when you look at him pulling into the pits, you can see that his wheel is just like, he just like drifts right into the pits. So I was like, well, good thing that you were close to the pits, because that would have been a whole another safety car if they had to retrieve your car from on the track. And then during this time, we also check in with Russell. And Toto had come out to meet him. And you can see that Russell is just greeting the fans cheerfully. And he seems to be overall in a good mood. However, this boy was PR trained. So I feel like he might just be putting on a brave face. People say that he bounces back pretty fast, but we'll see how it goes. I just remember, I don't know how I remember this because I wasn't watching F1 at this time, in 2021, where him and Bottas got into a collision where they both went off track. And Russell immediately goes over and starts cussing him out. Presumably, because I don't know, we didn't hear anything, but he's over here like waving his hands and yelling at him while Bottas is still in the cockpit of the car and Bottas is like trying to get out. And then so Bottas goes and flicks him off because like, I mean, if someone's gonna come at you and start yelling at you, like what else are you gonna do? It's just like, I can't get out of the car until you move. And so Bottas flicks him off. And then he goes and he hits Bottas' helmet. And I am like devastated. So something's gonna happen, right? Like he's gonna get a penalty. Like we're gonna see some kind of follow-up. The road rage with Russell is crazy. So this was back when Bottas was driving for Mercedes. And Russell was driving for maybe Williams. I just remember being devastated. That kind of altercation happened. Usually when a collision like that happens, a driver would go over and see if the other driver's okay. They're like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. Are you good? But that boy was like, and I was like, dang. And it ended up with him like ripping his gloves off and just like throwing them on the floor. That boy was pissed. And so it's nice to see that he has grown since then. He did do a public apology after the incident happened. He went out and he said sorry, but I was like, are you sorry you got caught? I digress. So all that to say is that he seems to have grown as a person and as a driver. By lap 45, Hadjar got a 10-second penalty because remember I was saying he and Leclerc were dancing for a while. He was driving in a defensive manner. And so they're like, actually, you were driving a little too defensively. You were driving a little bit erratically. And so we got to give you a penalty because that was unsafe. But Colapinto, who's right behind Hadjar, is 41 seconds behind him. Even with that time penalty, because he has to drive into the pit to serve it. What is it, like 20 seconds to drive into the pit, 10 seconds to serve the penalty, it's 30 seconds overall. Colapinto's not going to catch up. That boy's 41 seconds behind. So technically this penalty is inconsequential. He won't lose any positions. I didn't mention this about this track before. I don't know what it is about the track, but every single like little group of cars are separated by 20 seconds or more. And I'm just like, what's going on? Why is there such big gaps between each car? It's like we just had a safety car and you guys are still separated by 20 seconds or more. But then again, because they're so spaced out, it just means that they have more clean air to drive in. Because remember what Leclerc was saying. He's all like, nothing else matters but clean air. I guess it's to their benefit to have so much clean air and have such spacious gaps. By lap 46, the virtual safety car is out. And the pit lane is closed because remember I said that Perez drifted into the pits. He didn't quite make it to his garage. So they have to recover his car before the pit lane can be opened and be accessible to the other drivers. But they did it in one lap and now the race is back on. By lap 47, Bottas is under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. By lap 49, Hamilton's on the radio saying, yo, I think we can do it! Because he's held P3 for the last 10 laps. And the race is more than halfway done. So he's like, I think we're gonna make podium, y'all. The top 5 are Antonelli, Verstappen, and Hamilton. And like I said, Antonelli is just miles ahead of everyone. He's just not even racing nobody. He's in a race of his own. By lap 50, Leclerc tells his team to stop talking to him unless it's critical information. That boy is locking in. By lap 53, the virtual safety car comes out again because they had to recover some debris that fell off of Perez's car that they didn't do before. And lap 55 through 58, the virtual safety car ends. Hamilton starts closing in on Verstappen. By lap 56, they're duking duking it out. And Hamilton keeps telling his team that he needs more power. By lap 60, we already know that Hamilton can afford to fight Verstappen for P2 because Leclerc, who's in P4, is 20 seconds behind him. So it's just like, all right, we can duke it out because, I mean, Leclerc ain't catching up. And there's only 3 laps left. By lap 61, the yellow flag comes out because Hülkenberg has a spin, but he's able to recover and stay in the race, so it's gone as quickly as it came. By lap 62, Lewis and Max are still duking it out for P2. And Hadjar, in the background, got a stop-go penalty for his yellow flag infringement. So it must mean that he didn't slow down when he was supposed to. By lap 63, Hadjar dives into the pits, serves his penalty, and still comes out in front of Colapinto, and he's able to hold his P5 position. So by lap 62, Hamilton finally overtakes Verstappen and is now in P2. And now the race is over. The podium places have already been set. It is Antonelli, Hamilton, and Verstappen. And let the record show that this is the first time someone has won 4 races in a row after winning their maiden Grand Prix. So Antonelli has broken yet another record in F1. To quote the British commentators, "Here comes the history boy." Honestly, I cringed when he said that, but I can't deny that it's true. It's just such a cringe thing to say. For the post-radio talks, Kimi Antonelli says, "It's not the way I wanted to win, but it was a good fight." Hamilton says, "Great job, everybody." And Verstappen says, "The tire temperature wasn't too good, but good job." So now it's time for the post-race interviews. Kimi Antonelli says, "Today was a difficult day on track. It was very dusty and we suffered some setbacks and a lot of lockups. But it was a great battle between me and Russell until his retirement. The rest of the race was basically tire management." Lewis. Honestly, anytime Lewis comes on the mic, the crowd goes wild. "Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And a huge thank you to my team. It's been a tough year, but we found a sweet spot. It was great to battle Max again. We have some upgrades coming and it's really exciting." Just to put a side note here, last year, Ferrari did what felt like no upgrades according to Lewis, and that boy was just shook. He was a shell of a man. He did not have a good relationship with his race engineer last year because he switched to Ferrari last year, so he got a new race engineer and a whole new team. And by the end of the season, apparently Ferrari wasn't doing any upgrades. So now that Ferrari's doing upgrades and Lewis has a new race engineer, that boy is feeling good. Now, it's time for Max's interview. He says, "I had some cool battles out there. To have our first podium feels great. For us to be up here on podium is something to be happy about." Then they go back to Kimi. And I guess they ask him, like, "How are you feeling? How is the rest of the season looking like?" And he says, "I'm gonna keep doing what I do. Everyone is getting quicker, but I'll do my best." And that's it for the drivers' interviews. Now, time for some Kristen Quotes. The first Kristen quote says, back when George Russell's car stopped, she said, "I know George is sick. Ugh! 2 world champions and the future world champion on 1 podium." And she said, "In 2026, we heal from trauma." Remember when I told you that when Lewis had to race Nico Rosberg, like their relationship became so toxic that they didn't talk for like 15 years after that season? Well, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton have had a heated rivalry where apparently they weren't friends. I don't know how far down it goes, but the way Kristen was acting, I was like, oh, like it must have been real bad, because the way you're acting like they kissed and made up just because they stood on podium together and they weren't upset with each other. I'm like, that's crazy. Maybe I'll get the updated story and I'll be able to fill you guys in. I don't know. I'm just here reporting what I know. But yeah, that's it for Kristen Quotes. Now, let's move on to post-race thoughts. All right, my first thought was what happened to George Russell. And you find out that this boy got a 5,000 pound penalty. Or is it a 5,000 euro penalty? Yeah, I think he got a 5,000 euro penalty. And I am like, dang, that must have hurt. And then a headline comes out saying, George Russell suspended. And you're like, he's not going to participate in the race? And of course, like, we're all like holding our breath. We're watching this happen in real time. And then someone finally explains, no, he's not suspended. His penalty is suspended. If he does what he did again, then he will have to pay up. But for now, he's fine. He's scot-free. And I am like, he endangered other racers? And you're letting him off scot-free? Not even a grid penalty, not even a 10-second penalty, because y'all love that penalty. He gets nothing. He gets a smack on the hand and you just be like, don't do that again, sweetie pie, or else we're going to have to give you that penalty. That was messed up. Y'all over here giving Hadjar a stop-go penalty for a yellow flag infraction, and y'all did nothing to Russell? Could not be me. I don't know, man. I just felt some type of way. Also, the fact that it was done on this racetrack that is named after a driver who suffered the consequences of the lack of safety in F1, and you guys are just gonna be like, it's fine, Russell has to pay no penalty. I don't know. I just felt some type of way. And that was my final thought for this race. Well, that's it for this race, fans. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next chat.